Good evening. It is December 29th, 2025, and tonight we're talking about an article that just came out on the This Will Hold substack about Joust integrity. I will be using code words, and where's my little card? But let me just say, I'm going to show my little card. Oh, I don't know what I did with it. This is for entertainment purposes only. But welcome everybody. And for the people that showed up early, I'm sorry. I was scheduling this live and then I had to edit something. And for some reason, when I edited it, it defaulted to some random time. I had set it up for 6 p.m. and it changed it. And so sorry if you came here earlier. Yes, 2 days in a row. So I started this discussion yesterday. And because I discovered this article that came out December 27th yesterday, and I just immediately went on live because I wanted to talk about it. And so we spent almost 2 hours and we didn't get through the whole article. So I said, oh, I'm going to come on again tomorrow and let's talk about it some more. So let's see who's here. You had a nice chat earlier while I was missing. Okay, good. Clearwater, Florida. I used to live in Florida. I know where Clearwater is. And hopefully my mods are here. I want to thank my mods for always showing up and helping me out. Hello, Connecticut. We got Fort Defiance, Virginia in the house. Hello from Delaware, Maryland, Seattle, Connecticut, Indianapolis. And if you're listening to the replay, please leave a comment with where you are, because I always like to know where people are. Gives us a sense of our community, right? Holman, Wisconsin, Ontario, Canada, Newmarket, New Hampshire, Houston. My town is too small. It doesn't matter. We still want to know. Missouri, Wisconsin, another person from Ontario, Long Island, Eugene, Oregon. I've been to Eugene. I had a colleague, back when I was a professor, I had a colleague who taught in Eugene, and she invited me down. I was in Seattle at the time, up. Nova Scotia, Pittsburgh, Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you everyone for being here. Oh, I forgot to put my little buy me a coffee thing up there. If you want to buy me. Thank you to everyone who bought me a coffee yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the article on the screen. Let's see. So we can all see it. Two vesties from Cincinnati, Kitchee, Vermont, Southern Florida, Southern Alabama, Valley, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Moscow, Idaho. I love it. Norman, Oklahoma. I've been to Oklahoma. I wasn't in Norman. I was in Muskogee. Arizona. Okay, so let me see. I want to pull up this article because that's what we're talking about. And maybe I'll just preface by why I'm talking about it. So we have 265 in here right now. In case you weren't here yesterday, we're talking about it because this is an article that is all about Joust irregularities, Joust integrity. It's all about the data and all of the kind of evidence that something was very wrong, something was clearly amiss in November of last year. And so I got very excited about seeing that because I am one of the people who, starting in November of last year, a couple of days after the big joust, was coming onto these platforms and talking about how something happened, something irregular happened, and that what we were being told about the results was not truthful, was not accurate. Now, I am a psychic medium, and I'm one of a number of psychic mediums who have been talking about this for the last year. We've made lots of predictions, and I was really excited to see a lot of data in one place confirming what we've all been saying for over a year. And so for those who don't know me, I'm a psychic medium, but I also have a background in philosophy and physics, and I believe in looking at intuitive knowledge, empirical knowledge, and rational knowledge, and I think they're all equally valid. So as a precog, I do make predictions. I don't claim to be 100% accurate. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm not, but I always look for evidence to determine whether or not I was right. I don't just say, trust me, whatever I say this is what I'm getting. This is what my guides are saying. Let's look and see if it's right. And so we always want to look for evidence. And so when I find evidence that supports what my guide said, I get really happy. So that's why we're here. So I'm going to bring up this article. We got Cincinnati, Santa Rosa, Central Florida. Okay. So I'm going to pull up the article right now. I have a lot of articles up here for us to look at. So we're going to start with the main article that prompted me to want to have this discussion. Okay, so this is from the Substack, This Will Hold. I strongly encourage you to subscribe and to This Will Hold. You could do a free subscription, or you can do like a $5 a month. There's different options. And, just to support investigative journalism that's looking at the Joust. I think we should all support that. Oh, have I hit this yet? Oh, I got to hit that. Okay, so let me make sure you can all see what I'm looking at. Oh, wait, it's not there. Okay, where are you? Where are you? Now I can't find, okay, there you are. I have too many windows open. Okay, so this is the article that, I'm talking about, and that's on the This Will Hold website. So what this article talks about is it goes through, and first it starts talking about, I'm going to go a little review for, I know some people were here yesterday and you already know this, but we got a review for the new people. So I'm going to do a quick review. It starts out by, let me go to it so I can, okay. It starts out by talking about all of the shenanigans, basically, that happened with the Joust. And so the article is mostly about, look at all of these shenanigans. Here's all the data to support our conjecture that there was documented corruption at every layer of the U.S. jousting system. And so they talk about backdoor updates to ticket counting equipment. They talk about the existence of millions of tickets coming from ghost counties that don't actually exist. And they talk about 1.5 million tickets being cast for the Lotus Queen and then disappearing in real time on live TV. And they also talk about, I have such a long list of shenanigans that they discuss in this article. They also talk about tampering with machines that happened back in 2020 that resulted in Tina Peters going to prison. So these people were convicted. It's not just conjecture. There were actually convictions. They also talk about a Georgia case that involved Sidney Powell, allegedly. These people were not convicted, so we have to say allegedly, but they were accused of tampering with machines in Georgia on January 7th, 2021, the day after the insurrection attempt. And then, of course, we have more than 200 false, fake bomb threats from Russia that were made the day of the Joust. Anyway, I have a much longer list, but I just wanted to start off with a summary. I guess the thing is, how do I find you again? Okay, I got to close this. I got too many windows open. There you are. Okay, so that's my summary so far. And we covered a lot of this yesterday. And so one update I want to give is one of my followers sent me a Reddit post. And so I did read it. And it was a Reddit post where somebody is, let's see, I think it's just on my phone. I don't have it. I can't pull it up on the computer. Where somebody was claiming that the math related to the title of this article was wrong. Okay, where is it? Uh-oh, where's my Reddit? And so I read it, and I read a bunch of comments in here. But basically, there was this person called Oregonian Wizard, I think, says, oh, the people in this article misread the table. The person who wrote this Substack misread the table, and they didn't get the numbers right. And they go through and they're trying to talk about this one county in Northampton where they claim that this article got the math wrong. So we always want to consider critiques, right? But here's the thing. I read that, and then I went back and looked at the article, and here's what I decided to do. I said, because I don't have the data, I don't have the original data, right? But this is what you can always do with an article, is you want to look at their sources, right? And so I said, let's look at this article and let's look at their sources. And here's one of the first things I noticed about this. Okay, am I sharing? Here I am. I'm not sharing. I'm looking at it. You're not looking at it. Okay, I'm going back to the article because I want to show you something. Because we want to be critical thinkers, right? Anytime you're reading anything, you always want to look at their sources. So one thing we should notice about this article is that this author has a footnote like every couple of sentences. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, right? This person's work is well footnoted. They're not just saying stuff. All right. So we want to go to the footnotes. Uh-oh. Are we still here? So if we go to the footnotes, I decided to evaluate their sources. And so I made a list, but I'm going to show them to you so you can evaluate them with me. So what they claimed in the article, and is something that they're doing, is they said, we're talking about all the journalists who are beginning to agree that there were shenanigans in the Joust last November. There's a lot of journalists saying this now. And so a lot of their references are journalists, right? So they have like this person, Desert in Bloom. Okay, let me find it. Is this it? Okay, here it is. Okay, am I still sharing this? Let me see. I got to make sure I'm sharing what I think I'm sharing. Can you see what I'm seeing? Oh, no, I have to change it. Okay, so we'll just go through this first, and then I won't show you all the articles at once. I'm trying to do too much. Okay, so we'll just stick to this. Let's just look at these references. So here, for example, this is another investigative journalist who's talking about the machines. This is from them. This is from the same Substack, another article they did about another county. This is another journalist. This is a well-known art magazine, Forbes. This is NBC. And this is the Election Truth Alliance. This is actually a lawsuit. So they have the actual lawsuit here, which I can pull up. I have all these in tabs we can look at. And then they have more from this same organization, Election Truth Alliance. Now, if you don't know, the Election Truth Alliance has been doing research on this topic and gathering data and filing lawsuits for the last year in numerous states. They're quite reputable. And we have some information from the House Democrats, Associated Press, PBS, Reuters, NPR, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, less like the FBI for Georgia. We've got this think tank, the Brennan Center for Justice. We also have Smart Elections. This is another organization that's been collecting data for the last year and filing lawsuits. We've got an academic research project listed here, cited, another journalism, Politico, New York Times, Reuters, another think tank, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Think tanks, these are collections of scholars who work on particular projects, et cetera, right? So we have a sense of what, right? Al Jazeera, this is journalism from outside the U.S., there's a lot of reports. Here's the duty to warn letter. They have it actually cited. Okay, so, all right, so we've done our due diligence to look at the sources, and we always have to do that. So when you're reading something, you want to know where they're getting their information. And I have a lot of faith in two of those organizations where they're getting their data, and that's SMART and ETA. They've been doing research all year. They've been filing lawsuits all year. So I'm also impressed with the fact that they're using all of these different journalist sites and also think tanks, right? So so when I saw this critique of the math for that one part of the argument, so they're talking about that one case, the case of what was the first one? I already forgot. The title of the piece is referring to one particular set of data. It's referring to Pennsylvania, a particular county in Pennsylvania. And so the critique made by the Redditor was, we think that they read the chart wrong. And my first thought when I saw that was basically the same question I have about the article. What's your source? Who are you? Are you an authority? Are you a scholar who is, knowledgeable about statistics? You're questioning data, which is actually from the ETA, an organization that is devoted entirely to this topic and this topic alone, right? They're experts on analysis of integrity of Joust. And so if somebody's going to critique them, I expect them to be an expert as well. It should be like a statistician or a political science professor, or, somebody who actually has the kind of credentials and experience to critique them. And I didn't see that. I saw no proof of that on the Reddit. So that makes me a little suspicious. Now, if they're right and there is something wrong with the data, I don't have access to the data. I don't know how they got access, but maybe they did. Even if they did find something wrong with the data from that particular county, that doesn't discount all of the other examples they gave, right? They've given, according to my count, I've got at least 11 different sources of shenanigans that are discussed in this article. So I'm very impressed with the article because it brings together so many sources and so many different examples of shenanigans and so much data. Let me see what you all are saying in the chat. We got Spokane, Florida. Okay, let's see what you're all saying. Okay, so here's someone who has a critique, Denise. I just wish they would state the percentage in whole numbers. To me, that aids comprehension and credibility. I'm not actually sure what you're talking about, but maybe I should pull up the article. So you're talking about that chart. Let me pull it back up so we can see what Denise is talking about, because we do want to, we like criticism. We like to engage and like what's going on. So let's go on to this chart. Okay, so maybe Denise is talking about what we have here is a chart which is from the ETA. It's from this actual court case, right? And so anyone who knows anything about legal proceedings, you can't bring bad stats to a court case because you're going to get found out by the other side. It's really, that just is going to, really hurt your case. And so maybe she's talking about these numbers over here, the fact that the percentages have these fractions. All right. Is that what you're talking about? I'm not sure. Okay. Okay. So let's listen to We Are One. They said, I just sent emails to all my reps requesting a recount and sent them a link to the article. We all need to be loud. So I agree. If you read the whole article and you get to the bottom, which we didn't get to yesterday, you'll see that when at the, I just took it off by accident. Okay. If we go to the bottom, you can see that at the bottom of the article, they say, what can we do about this? And they give us some suggestions, right? They talk about things that we can do, they talk about, getting rid of a certain somebody. And they also talk about authorizing independent third-party hand count audits of all tickets before this deadline of September 2026. And so we can all contact our reps and ask for this, right? Another thing they suggest is that we get rid of electronic voting systems and transition to paper and hand counted, because those are a lot harder to finagle. You can't use satellites. You can't, just digitally change numbers, right? You have to actually like steal the paper and destroy it. It's harder to do. And then they have these other remedies, like invoking Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, etc. So we could get to that part of the article, but I wanted to address what people are saying first, because we got a lot of people here, over 400. Okay, so this person's spiritual hack says, well, it would be due diligence if we actually read the cited sources. But that could wait until the use of citations in the article is assessed. So yeah, that's what I was going to bring up next. So I did open up these other sources and I do have them. And so I was going to share some of them with you. But you can do that yourself, right? You can go through the article and you can actually read all of the sources. And so I also recommend this. So here's one of the sources. One of the sources they cited early on in the article was this article, talking about the machines. And so you could read through this and see, okay, what is this journalist saying? And what are their sources, right? Now, there's also, let me find another one. There's also this report. Now, this report is cited in the article. This Common Sense, Common Goals report, Common Coalition report, and you can read this, and it has a lot of detailed analysis of what the shenanigans were. Okay, so that's another thing that we could read. Right. There's also, I was able to, click on links and find lots of these articles. There's also, for example, the actual court case from the ETA that this is actually a link to the actual case with all of the documents, right? So these are all the legal documents supporting their case. Right. So this is a lot of data that we could review. Okay. So this is just an example, right? We're just talking about, how do we critically assess something that we're reading? That's how we would do it. We would look at the sources. We would read the sources. We could even read the sources of the sources. And that's how we evaluate it. And so there's a lot we can do. There's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of articles out there. There's a lot of information out there. And I'm really excited about this because, as I said, I have been talking about this for over a year. I haven't been talking about it a lot lately. I talked about it early on. And when I got this information, I got it as a psychic medium, right? I got intuitive information. I had visions. My spirit guides told me. And the thing is, when you get psychic information, you can't prove it in the moment. I mean, you can share it, and then you have to wait and see if it's a prediction. You have to wait and see, is there any evidence to support my prediction? And so I consider this evidence that supports my prediction. And that's why it's exciting to me. There is someone who, here we go. There is someone who donated a $20 super sticker. Crystal Lewis, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Okay, let me see what else people are saying in the chat. Let's see. Okay, this is an interesting position. They call me Nike. They call me Neek. I believe a lot of people on the left know they are trying to wait it out with hopes of winning the mids, which is not fair to voters. I agree. And so this is one of the things that was discussed in the article. So let's go back to the article. I mean, I could just spend all day talking about this article, which is why I did that's why I'm doing the live. So let's go back to it. Because one of the things they talk about, so they start off by talking, let me go back to my summary of what all they're doing in this article. They start off with, oh, look, these are all these examples of corruption in the US ticket tallying system, right? And they go through these different examples. And then they talk about another problem, which I would like to label as cowardice. Are you seeing what I'm saying? Make sure yeah, I'm sharing. Okay. Which I call, cowardice, which is the fact that the blue hats are not talking about this, right? So we have a situation where 40% of blue hats believe there were shenanigans, and yet we have one of the blue hat leaders, H.J., maintaining that there are no people on the blue hat side who are questioning anything about the joust. And then we have this audit that the DNC did of the joust, and then they said, we're not going to release any results. We're just going to bury this, right? And so on the one hand, we have all of these people who identify as blue hats who have questions and concerns, but then the leadership of the blue hats doesn't seem to have any questions or concerns. They're not talking about it. They're not investigating it. The audit they did do, they're not publishing. And they're even going so far as to say, nothing to see here, nobody's concerned, which is factually inaccurate, right? Many of us are concerned. Many of us people who are blue hats, and also people who are purple hats, independents. There's many of us who are independents, and we also have concerns. Okay. So this audit that they did involved 300 interviews across 50 states, but it is sealed. Why the silence? Why the silence? We're also seeing a lot of silence in the media, right? Like, why isn't this being discussed in the media? Of course, we know why. We don't really have free press anymore. And so we have all these journalists. In this article, lots of journalists are cited. So there are a lot of journalists talking about this, but we're not seeing a lot of mainstream journalists talking about it, right? It's not making the nightly news. Right? So they talk about, this DNC thing, and then they talk about all the ghost counties, these counties that were like, here's a picture from an actual news channel, and they're showing pictures and images of counties that don't exist. But those votes got counted, right? And then, of course, they talk about how this one place, District 8 in Minnesota, when they actually did a hand count and compared it to the machine count, it didn't match up. And then they talk about this instance where on live TV, there was a count of the tickets for Lotus Queen that was at 2 million. And then shortly after that, she only had 1 million. So she lost 989,000 votes in a few minutes, which is not possible when you're, uh-oh. Am I still here? Okay. All right. So this is some of the things that are discussed in the article. They also talk about Georgia, where there was these finagling with machines that happened, allegedly, because the case was dismissed. It was stalled and ultimately dismissed. And then we have, okay, here also. So here is from the Common Coalition report. So I just pulled that up, right? This is something that you can go read. And here they're talking about the problem that the Blue Hats have, where they're so concerned about not wanting to sound like the insurrectionists that nobody wants to talk about these, anomalies and irregularities. And so then here's an interesting bit of information that I think is relevant to that kind of discussion. We don't want to sound like them, right? But to be clear, those denying the 2020 Joust results lost all 64 court cases, many due to lack of standing, but fundamentally because they had no evidence. And also, Faux News was forced to pay Dominion $787 million for knowingly spreading falsehoods about the 2020 Joust. Tucker Carlson was fired. So, it's a very different situation, right? And that's what's been kind of frustrating, right? Is that, like there have been articles published about people like me, psychic mediums, the 4 a.m. Club, the Dreaming Women, whatever you want to call us. And I was discussed in a couple of these articles. And the very first article that came out, they called us Blue Anon, right? They said, oh, anybody who says that there were any shenanigans in the 2024 Joust, you're just like QAnon, but blue. And that kind of critique was used to try to silence us, right? Like, oh, if you say anything, if you question anything about this Joust, then you're a conspiracy theorist and you're delusional and you're just one of these people who's trying to overthrow things or have your little insurrection on Capitol Hill, right? They just tried to throw us into the same category as those people. And the big difference is data, right? The people in that movement, they never had any evidence. They were also violent people. That's a big difference. I'm just sitting here on my couch talking about what my guide said. I'm not hurting anybody. But, and these ETA smart people, they're just filing lawsuits, right? They're not hurting anybody. They're just pursuing data and filing lawsuits, seeking justice. Whereas those people were, climbing walls and, actually harming people and even unaliving people and trying to actually overthrow a democratic process that was happening that day. Like they were counting the tickets. The Congress was like validating the count and they were trying to stop it. So, but somehow, that argument was used to try to silence anybody who wanted to raise any questions about these irregularities, right? But they're not comparable, right? But it's like apples and oranges, right? They're just not comparable. Okay, let's see what people have to say in the comments. And then also a reminder, if you want to buy me a coffee. I got a few coffees last night. I appreciate it. Thank you for the coffees. I was actually wanting to thank people. Let me do that. Vicky Appleton, Holly Stout, Holly Stout, Valley Wills, Sandy McClure, and Sonia Aguila. Thank you for your coffees. That was from today and yesterday. Okay, what are we talking about in the chat? Let's see. Okay, here's a question from Ashley Chang. And if I remember this correctly from yesterday, I think Ashley Chang is a security IT security person. So they've got some expertise. Just ask these people why they think the DOJ is suing states for voter data And if we have records that the Florida compromises were addressed and how. I'm not sure I entirely understand that sentence. But I understand the first part. Good question. Why are they trying to get the voter data? So in our republic, states run their own jousts, right? It's not a federally run joust. It's run by states. And so there's no reason for them to share their data with the federal government. So that's just how our republic works. But this particular circus is trying to force the states to give up their data. I mean, not just the data. They want them to send the paper tickets so there won't be any evidence of the crime. That's what I think. That's my theory. That's my speculation, allegedly, and for entertainment purposes only. But that's a good question. Yeah, this is what I don't understand. Transcendent 8656. Why are they not interested? Right? Why? We need to know why, because there are too many irregularities, right, as this article shows, for us not to ask questions. And here's the thing. If you think there's nothing to see, then guess what the recount is going to show? It's going to show there's nothing to see, right? If you think nothing happened and someone says, but, a county says, hey, we've looked at early, the data we've looked at so far suggests that something happened and we want to do a hand recount to make sure everything was on the up and up. Why suppress that? Right? Because if they're wrong, that will be shown, right? The data will then reveal that nothing wrong, right? All the hand count, machine counts, they all match up, right? So why is there so much resistance to anybody doing recounts? So somebody is talking about Midas, lemon gelato. Are they refusing to talk about this? So I don't, I think I've heard people complain that they're not willing to talk about this. I agree with Tam Sea Salts. If you don't question the face of truth, it's propaganda. Silence is propaganda. Silence is another form of propaganda, right? If you're silent about injustice because you're being pressured not to talk about it, and people are calling you names, or, because you're questioning things, then, we should be concerned about that. This person, Joseph, that's funny. It's conspiracy science at this point. Okay. Illumination Porter says, I don't care what it sounds like. Oh, yeah. This is an interesting question. So this just came out a couple days ago that France is talking about possibly arresting, detaining Starboy, possibly freezing assets, right? There's some different speculations because they think he's engaged in Joust interference over there. This is not the first time. Somebody tell me in the chat, because I remember last year there was another country, was it Germany or the UK, that was also threatening to arrest him for interference in their Joust. So a lot of people in other countries think that it's obvious what happened here. And they think that we're ridiculous and we're foolish for not doing anything about it, that we just allowed it to happen. If you're from another country and you're in the chat, share your opinion. Yeah, we keep the records for a good reason, right? Oh, okay. So someone said that Midas Touch is being harassed with being shut down. I think they've also been facing lawsuits. It's very difficult to be a journalist right now. It's difficult to be a psychic. It's difficult to be a truth seeker because we're living in a country where authoritarianism and flashyism is now kind of, the water we're swimming in. Oh, Susan Lynn. I love Susan Lynn. She's one of my mutuals on YouTube, who is like me, makes predictions about political topics. So according to Indiana Smith, Susan Lynn, a psychic, reported in October of 2024 that she received in the mail someone's voter registration confirmation to someone else using her address. She lived in Texas. She's now moved. Yeah, I would like to tell some stories like that too. We heard a lot of stories like that. So there have been a lot of people talking about how their tickets weren't registered, their tickets weren't validated, they couldn't track their tickets. I actually was doing some volunteer phone calling around the time of the Joust, and I had a lot of people I talked to on the phone who told me that that was happening, that they couldn't find proof of their ticket, even though they had cast their ticket. I know as a poll worker in 2016 that there were a lot of irregularities. Our machines kept breaking down. The people that were supposed to fix them, there were so many broken in so many precincts that they could not get to them all because they had never had that happen before. We also had lists of ticket givers or ticket, what is it called? I gotta get my code right. The list they have of the people that are supposed to be able to cast a ticket, those were inaccurate. And we had hundreds of people in our precinct who were not on that list, even though they could show us on the website proof of their registration, but they were not on our list, which means they had to cast a provisional ticket. And those are not counted initially. They might be counted later, but they can be disqualified for lots of different reasons. And so that happened. So yeah, there's been a lot of anecdotal evidence that there were widespread irregularities, but we really need, we need a systematic study to be done. ETA and SMART are doing some of them, but we need more, right? We need our government should be doing this. If all of these people, if all these citizens are saying, hey, this happened to me, my ticket didn't get counted, I'm not happy about this, there should be investigations, right? There should be official investigations. And that's what's disturbing to a lot of us is, if we're wrong, prove we're wrong, right? If the people saying something went wrong that day are wrong, just do the research and prove it. All right, so let's get back. Should we go back to the article? I just wanted to check and see if there were any more comments that I should address. I like to not just talk. I like to also hear from you. So, okay, yeah, let's look at this person. U.S. Dems want to save face that U.S. elections cannot be corrupted. They want to look down at Banana Republic so they can say they are better than. The Cheeto has shown we can be the same. Yeah, that's an interesting position, right? Like, what are they so afraid of? They're so afraid of us looking. I mean, let me give another position. So this is what my guide said when it first happened, and I asked them, why isn't anyone doing anything? My guide said, because it's too dangerous right now, because there could be a sea war, because of all the militants who have pew-pews, who are ready to start something if their head clown doesn't get put in the seat, right? And then another thing that I heard a lot of people saying was, and this kind of fit in with what my guides were saying to some extent. There were people saying that if the American people lose faith in these institutions in the ability to cast a ticket, then they will lose faith in the entire government. And when a people loses faith in their entire government, what happens next is usually revolution. And so there were some people who were saying it was too dangerous to acknowledge that we no longer had free and fair jousts. Like that would be too dangerous for, I don't know, our psyche as citizens, as a country. What do people think about that? You know, the truth hurts, but I'd rather have the truth than live a comfortable lie. But some people think that if people know too much of the truth, that sometimes it can be too disruptive. I don't know. What do people think? I'm going to see what you guys have to say about that. Thank you for the $2 donation from Nora Aries. Question: why are they spying on that one journalist? Ooh, I don't know this story. Can somebody fill me in? I don't know. I can't answer your question because I don't know what it refers to. Okay. Rainey says we need the truth so we can fix it. Joy says we need a revolution. We Are One says we've already lost faith in the entire system. So some people have already lost faith. Okay, this is another possible explanation. Sin Fowler says Dems worried that citizens who don't believe in their voting systems and that they won't even vote. We already have a problem with people not voting. This is what we should be talking about. Sweet Melly, yes, the epi files. We are going to talk about that in this live, but we're just talking about the article, and then we're also going to talk about how it's connected. So is the epi files, is that what the journalist? Oh, okay. So someone said the journalist who was targeted was reporting on epi. Okay, so here's a bit of good news by Maud Mock's Good Susie. Congress has been asked to investigate how Starboy reportedly knew somebody had won 4 hours before it was called. So this is also something that we need to demand an investigation of, right? Interesting. So we're talking about this journalist. That's what happened to her. Oh, okay. So Julie K. Brown's flight info was pulled. Let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, so this is why. Okay, so this is her name. Okay, here's an explanation. I'm trying to figure it out from the chat. So the journalist from Florida who was looking into epi years ago had her travel plan show up in the file. So that means somebody was investigating her. And she's the one that got him charged in Florida. Thank you for explaining this. She's the reason. Okay, excellent. Hey, but as Transcendent 8656 points out, she's still alive and doing interviews. Okay, so that's good. Anyone who's still alive is a good thing. They tracked her. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the epi files, and I am gonna bring the article back up because it's all related. So let's bring it back up. And they talk about it in this article. This is the This Will Hold article for those who've joined us late. We're looking at this article by This Will Hold that came out 2 days ago on December 27th, talking about the various shenanigans that happened in November of last year and all of the reasons we should be concerned about the data and the integrity of the results. And one of the things they talk about in this article is the motive. So I want to just scroll down. Okay, why run away with the Joust results? Right? It's related to the files, right? And I believe that these files are centered to so many things. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. As long as they get the head clown into office, they were thinking, well, we don't have to worry. The files will never come out as long as we can finagle this joust, right? What my guides told me quite a while ago, and I've shared this previously, is that this is all connected, that the people who brought the circus to town, the people in the circus, the people who brought the sponsors of the circus. So there are lots of wealthy merchants who were sponsors, right? Like you can think of it like, promoters, but also financial sponsors who brought the circus to town. They all had a vested interest in the circus, not just because it was going to make them money and give them tax breaks and allow them to engage in various kind of corrupt takeovers of governmental agencies and replace them with corporate ones, but also because it was going to protect them from anyone finding out about the global bad traffic in which they were involved. And so this is all connected. And that's why right now the release of the files is the most important thing. So it might seem like there's two things that are equally important, like, investigating the integrity of the Joust results and releasing the files. But if you just release the files, that actually will provide the evidence for the investigation of the integrity of the Joust. It actually will do that as well, because it's all the same project. So, allegedly. And, this is for entertainment purposes only. So here's the thing. For those who are following the release of the files, I know it's just, there aren't that many yet. There's a lot more that haven't been released than have. But those people who are analyzing that, what they are already finding is that there's a lot of evidence in the files, not just of bad traffic of children and women, but also of financial shenanigans and political shenanigans. And so lots of very powerful political figures involved in various activities that involve the movement of money across borders, and, a lot of them through EPI, a lot of transfer of money, a lot of, financial advising, a lot of political maneuvering where EPI was actually making decisions about like Supreme Court justices and about, talking to the leaders of various countries about important political events, about negotiations, about treaties, about all kinds of major political events. And so what we're seeing, yes, is money, arms, drugs, people. So the movement, the traffic involved all of these things. And the traffic involved, and not just these, it also involved the positioning of people, the putting of people into positions of power. This is all starting to come out. So there was a New York Times article that talked about extortion and blackmail in the files. And then there have been a number of people recently who've been reading the files and talking about some of the like political machinations, some of the political leaders involved, the role that EPI had in these political negotiations. There's also been articles put out about the movement of money. Right. So this is a very complex network of people involved in an incredible amount of crimes. And they're trying to protect this at all costs, because it's not just going to reveal to us that certain people in positions of power are PDF files, including the head clown, but it's also going to show not just PDF filery, but it's also going to show global networks and how they operate and how they undermine democracy and how they undermine how they involve themselves in financial corruption, how they trade in people, right? All of that's going to come out, and they're afraid of that. Yes, that's a very good explanation. The clown mafia. That's another thing that I've described in the past, and that my guides have said, that this is like a mafia. This is like organized crime, right? The circus is like organized crime. And so when I asked also, back to that question of why isn't anyone doing anything? Why didn't the blue hats do anything? I was also given another answer, in addition to the answer of the fear of terrier cells and sea war. I was also told that there were a lot of individuals who were afraid of personal attacks. So the way that crime families work is, if you don't do what they want you to do, either they will pay you off, or they will try to ruin you, maybe cause you to lose your job, or they'll try to ruin your reputation, or they will try to unalive you, or they will threaten to unalive your family or other innocent people that are associated with you. And this is actually what my guides said they were doing. They said the circus was doing this to people, to anybody who spoke up or who, and so there's a lot of fear. And we have seen evidence of that. So I was told that many, many months ago. We have now seen evidence, right? We had the judge who had her house firebombed and 3 of her family members put in the hospital. I think it was her father, her husband, and her son. We had representatives who were unalived, representative and her family. We had, of course, some suspicion around Epi. We had Virginia Giuffre. We had survivors on Capitol Hill tell us that there have been 25 women who named names and have since shuffled off the mortal coil under suspicious circumstances. According to the survivors, they were offed. I think we should believe the survivors. So we do now have evidence for that, for what the guide said, that this is how this institution works, right? That they are that they are violent. And then we've also seen all of these attacks, political attacks, on anybody who challenges them. So Fannie Willis, Attorney General Fannie Willis. Is that her name? I think we're saying it wrong. I don't think that's the right spelling, is it? Someone correct me. Feels like it's a little bit off. And so we have seen, Jimmy Kimmel. We've seen, I'm laughing because it's so absurd, right? That so many of anyone who goes against or disagrees with the circus is targeted in some way. I'm lost. Who is the Joust? That's funny. So you're new to me, because I've been talking about the Joust for months. It's code words. So I tell stories. I have a lot of character names and code words that I use because of censorship. And so, a joust is, back in the day, in the medieval times, people would compete. They'd get on horses with big long poles and they'd fight each other. And it was, there were whole tournaments of people fighting, competing. And so joust is an analogy for, someone else spelled it out. All right. Yeah. So my answer to this question as to why she didn't fight is because of these different reasons that my guide said, that there was a fear of a sea war, a fear of terrier cells, violence, and also a fear of unaliving of certain people. And the thing is, if somebody threatens your life, that's one thing. But when someone threatens your family, right, that's a different story, right? Because a lot of us are courageous people, and we're willing to risk our lives to speak the truth or to fight for justice. But are we willing to risk the lives of innocent people just because they're associated with us? That's a different kettle of fish, right? So I do understand people who this is an interesting question by Karen Edinger. Are the corporate blue hats getting funds to bury the proof? I haven't gotten that. Of course, there is a lot of questioning and concern about funding that's coming from Is Not Real. And we now know that a huge number of people on Capitol Hill are getting funding from that source. And they wear a lot of different hats. So that is a question now, because that is a part of it. So what I was told early on was that certain countries were involved in the installation of the circus because it benefits them. And Is Not Real was one of them, as is Rasputin's land. And so we now are seeing a lot of evidence for the Rasputin connection, right? When we're looking at Ukraine and what's happening, right? And what our country, which was supposed to be on one side and now appears to be on the other side. We're starting to see proof that the circus was heavily aligned with Rasputin from the beginning. And so, yeah, that is a question. I guess, we'll find out in the future. But yeah, okay, this also, I did get this. This is something my guide said quite a while ago, and that was that these fires were caused by the T cells as a threat. This is like them saying, this is what we can do. And it was directed against LA, specifically there were two neighborhoods. One was where a lot of celebrities lived, and the other area was entirely, middle class and well-to-do Black and brown people who had been living there for generations. It was a very well-established neighborhood. One of my family members lived there and lost everything. And so what my guide said was that was arson, and that it was done by circus affiliated militants to make a point of, you better not do anything, you better not say anything, this is what will happen, we'll come to your city next. So I don't have any real proof for that. I can say that I do live here in Los Angeles, and I can say that word on the street, when it, shortly afterwards, everybody was saying it was arson. It was not a wildfire. It was not wildfire season. It didn't burn like a wildfire. It didn't match descriptions of how, anyone who lives here knows what those are like. It wasn't anything like that. And there were videotapes. There were some reports in the news of people being apprehended, of people witnessing people starting fires, but I don't think there was any conclusive evidence. I didn't hear after a while. I didn't hear about it anymore. So, so I can't say that there's any evidence for that. I'm just telling you what my guides told me. I did see a lot of reports related to it for a while that made me feel confident, but I would like there to be an investigation of that. I would like to know the truth about that. Yeah, so Joy also agrees with me, for entertainment purposes only. Okay. Illumination Portal also agrees. Okay, so let's get this person in LA also agrees. So I'm just looking at what people are saying. Okay. Someone mentioned Libby. I love Libby, one of my mutuals on YouTube. And now I can't find the comment. Okay, so I'm going to return to the article. Let's talk more about this article. So, all right, so we were talking about the motives. And I wanted to go through the list in this article of shenanigans. So we already talked about some of them. And I have this long list. So most recently we talked about the 200 fake Russian bomb threats on the day of the joust. It kind of reminds me of like high school, right? Like in high school, when people don't want to take a test, they pull the fire alarm so people think there's a fire, but it's fake, and it's just done to get everybody out of the building. That's what they did, because when there's a bomb threat, everyone has to leave the station, and what that means is that nobody is watching the machines with the tickets, which means somebody could go in there and do something to them. They're no longer, the chain of custody is broken. Okay, now another shenanigan. There were some counties that were reporting 0 tickets for the Lotus Queen. Right? Okay, I can't remember where in the article it is. I have a list of notes. Okay, so I'm just going to take this down and just talk from my notes. Okay, so there were also, so there were counties, and there's been some lawsuits related to this, right? That have been put forth by, I think, the ETA, where there were certain counties where there were 0 votes for Lotus Queen. And yet there were people there saying, I definitely voted for her. I don't know why you have 0 votes tallied. Oops, I'm not supposed to say the word. So that was another kind of irregularity that was noticed. And now, what they also talked about in this article was kind of the history of the problem. And I thought this was interesting because different people are talking about this, that this is not something that just happened this year, that we've had problems in the past. And so they discussed in the article how the problem may have started in 2000 with the whole hanging Chad nonsense in Florida, right, with Bush, where Gore actually seemed to get more of the vote. But then there were these hanging Chads in Florida, and, George Bush's brother was the governor of Florida. And so he said, we're not going to count these. And then the Supreme Court got involved and said, we're just going to pick this guy and he's going to be president. So highly irregular situation in 2000 that resulted in a red hat getting the position, even though he did not appear to have gotten all the tickets. And they didn't even pretend that he did. They just said, we're going to make this kind of executive decision in this direction, and we're not going to do a recount, right? That happened in 2000. And then we also have, let me see what my notes say. I'm talking about this article still. 2016, there were all of these irregularities. And an example of that they mentioned in the article is that 59% of Detroit precincts experienced machine malfunction. And I can tell you that in Los Angeles, we also experienced that. I was a poll worker in one of the most diverse districts in LA. And we had multiple problems, and we were told by the person who was going to fix them that machines all over LA County were breaking down that day. They had never seen anything like it. Okay. They also talk about Starboy. So here's Okay. Well, I'm not in the right section for Starboy. Let's talk about the duty to warn. So there was also a letter that was sent out a year before the joust. That was a duty to warn letter that was set by 22 computer scientists, election security experts, and voter advocacy organizations. And they sent it to Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, Special Counsel Jack Smith, and CISA Director Gene Easterly. In this warning, quote, the multi-state effort to unlawfully obtain copies of voting system software poses serious threats to election security and national security and constitutes a potential criminal conspiracy of enormous consequences. The letter named those involved and documented confirmed illegal breaches involving Dominion and election systems and software. Dominion voting systems and election systems and software, which tabulates 70% of all tickets in the US. So this was sent out before the joust, right? And they said, look, there's been stolen software. It can be used to study vulnerabilities, develop malware, fuel coordinated disinformation campaigns. And it concluded with urgent implications for the 2024 joust and beyond. Nothing happened. No response. No federal investigation, right? Then the joust happened. And a week later, November 13th, those same election security experts sent another duty to warn letter. This time they sent it to the vice president, alerting her that these systems had been breached by circus allies in 20 and 21 and urging her to seek recounts, right? But what happened? Nothing happened, right? So this is another irregularity, bizarre thing that happened, more evidence of shenanigans, right? So here we have these experts who are saying there was a conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy, right? We now use the term conspiracy theorists to just delegitimize anybody who says anything that we don't like. Oh, they're just conspiracy theorists. But you know what? Sometimes criminals are involved in conspiracies, right? It's a crime, right? And these officials said, we have proof that there is a criminal conspiracy happening with regard to our joust, and nothing happened. Why is that, right? We should all have that question. Why is it that nothing happened, right? Okay, so I'm going through the list of things that are covered in this article. And what did I not include yet? Okay, now let's talk about the confessions. And we did talk about this last night, but let's talk about it because some people weren't here yesterday. So there were also these confessions, right, by Starboy and Head Clown. And also nothing came of this, right? There was no investigation of these confessions. So let's go to the article again. Okay, I think we were coming up to it. We're going to talk about that, what to do next as well. Here it is. All right, so we know that Head Clown publicly thanked Starboy for his knowledge of, quote, those vote counting computers in Pennsylvania, and the state attorneys did nothing. And here's the quote from Head Clown. He journeyed to Pennsylvania, where he spent like a month and a half campaigning for me. He's a popular guy. He was very effective. He knows those computers better than anyone. All those computers, those vote counting computers. Why is he talking about vote counting computers, right? There's no reason to talk about that unless you're talking about finagling, right? And we ended up winning in like a landslide. So it was pretty good, pretty good. Thank you, Elon, right? Right. And they talk about, what Starboy did in terms of harvesting voter data that he was then able to potentially allegedly use to create these ghost counties. And then we have this from the New York Times on October 5th, just days before the direct to sell DTC activation. He texted a confidant, quote, "I'm feeling more optimistic after tonight. Tomorrow we unleash the anomaly in the matrix." Then an hour later, "There isn't something on the chessboard, so they'll be quite surprised. Lasers from space." Right? Perfect explanation or description of his satellites. And then, Armitage from this other journalist talks about how this isn't just conjecture because they actually made a lot of statements publicly that they were planning to return to power one way or another. They actually did say a lot of incriminating things. Okay, let me go back to the comments to see what you're saying. And if you want to buy me a coffee, please do so. Okay, let's see what you're saying. Yeah, where's the backbone? Yeah, they call me unique, says that's what makes me so angry. They bragged about it before, during, and afterwards. It's true. They were very they were very kind of outspoken about, yeah, we did this thing. They were so proud of ourselves. We got away with it. So according to Froxy Roxy, we need a completely new system with fail-safe methods, and voting must be mandatory like it is to have a social security card at birth. 18 and over need to vote. Someone's reaching out to me about a survivor doing an interview. Yeah, you can connect us. I mean, I'm not anybody, but if they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them. Okay. Yeah. So the files, this is a very good point that Sandram Seferin is making. The files are the evidence for the criminal conspiracy, right? There is evidence, right? That's why they don't want it out. That's why it's been so difficult to get it out, is because the evidence has already been collected, right? It's already been collected. It's just about releasing now. Oh, this is exciting. So we have a hearing coming up in January in Pennsylvania. Uh-oh, somebody lost synchronicity of the video audio. Are other people having a problem with video audio? I only saw one comment. So it could be your internet connection. Here's a super chat question. Thank you for the super chat question, Sharon Nelson. Do you think the blue hats don't want anyone looking too closely at the joust because they may also be guilty of finagling? That's a good question. I haven't gotten any information like that. What I have gotten is that there's a whole lot of people who are implicated in the files with various hats, and that some of the people who are implicated in the files are the donors for some of these people. There's just a lot of guilty parties, and there's different kinds of guilt. So it's such a huge network of crime that there are all different degrees of it, right? So there are some people who are involved in SA, right? Those are like the most horrendous ones, right? And then you have other people who were enablers of SA or PDF or RE. And then you have other people who maybe they weren't involved directly in that or enabling it, but they benefited financially from it. And then you have other people who politically benefited by the same network of people who were involved in these crimes. So it's like whenever you have a crime family, you know, there are people whose hands are dirty and there are people whose hands are clean, but they're all guilty, right? So like, have you ever watched one of those like mobster movies? There's always certain people who, you know, they're at home with their family eating their spaghetti and, you know, living the American dream. And they're not directly involved in anything that involves blood, for example, right? They're not touching money. They're not communicating with thugs, right? But their entire lifestyle is supported by the money generated by the crimes. So it's like that. There are some people who are involved in a more peripheral way or in a more hands clean way, right? Where they're not, you know, directly involved in the doing, but they are directly benefiting. And I do think that some of those people are blue hats, right? It's not really a hat thing. It's not really a blue red hat thing. But it does appear to be the case that there are more red hats involved than blue hats. And I only say that because if we look at who was working very, very hard for many, many months to do everything possible to keep the files from coming out, it was unanimously the red hats. And then there were finally like 2 red hats who went against them, right? We had MTG and Massey, and then we had like 2 more. We had like 4 people. But the majority were against its release. And the majority, actually a unanimous number of the blue hats voted for its release. And so there does seem to be a correlation between party and maybe level of involvement. But that doesn't mean that the only ones involved were the ones that belong to a certain party. And, you know, there is an effort being made by the circus to turn it into a party thing. And this is something that my guides predicted as well. I did talk about this, I think, a couple months ago, that there was going to be this tit for tat, that what the circus was going to try to do was suppress and redact everything that implicated them and release things that only implicated blue hats, and then try to turn it into a blue hat thing. But then what was going to happen was then the blue hats were going to release information about the red hats. They were going to go back and forth. And the end result of this is going to be that everything's going to come out, because it really isn't about a party. Even though there may be more people from one party currently involved, right? Presently involved in some way, which would explain why they were so incredibly opposed to it. Now, part of the reason why some of them were opposed to it was not because they're involved at all, but just because they were doing it to support their man, right? Because their man, the head clown, said, whatever you do, you better not let these files come out, because if I go down, you're all going down. I mean, he has said that publicly, right? If I go down, you're all, and that's what they're afraid of. If he goes down, he's going to take them all down with him, even if they weren't in any way involved in the activities detailed in said files, right? All right, we got 600 people in here. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. And let me know in the comments if you want me to talk about certain things. There is another part of the article that I wanted to talk about before we stop talking about it. And that is the part at the end where they're talking about what we can do about this, right? What can we do about this? So let's go look at that for a minute. So for people who just showed up, we are talking about this article put out by This Will Hold on their Substack. Please go and subscribe to This Will Hold. You can subscribe for free. You can subscribe for a small, like $5 a month donation or more. Please, if you support them, then maybe they can write more articles and we can get more information. Okay, so, and one of the things they do in this article, which I like, is they do cite a lot of other articles, but they also have some screenshots from some of these other articles that other journalists, other investigative journalists have written. So like here's an article about Head Clown's effort to infiltrate voting systems. And then here's something about, some of you may remember that Starboy was involved in Ukraine, and he was actually allegedly involved in some activities with Starlink that actually had repercussions for the war, where he was blocking certain information and sharing privileged military information. In fact, Zelensky stopped, they became aware of it, that the use of Starlink was causing them to have their positions betrayed to the enemy, and they did speak out about it. Okay, so let's talk about the end of this article, where what to do about a stolen joust. So they actually give us lots of suggestions, and let's talk about those, because these are all things that we can all do. So I do have some notes here, but you can also read along with me. So the Constitution doesn't give us a redo button, but it does give us mechanisms to remove a falsely seated administration and install the rightfully elected one. These tools exist for moments exactly like this, they say. This Good Trouble blueprint, and for those who don't know, Good Trouble is an expression from recently deceased Representative Senator John Lewis, who was a civil rights activist. And he coined the term good trouble. He said it's, that we should all get into good trouble that's about, justice. I'm not quoting him correctly, but hopefully you all know what I put it in the chat if you have the exact quote from John Lewis. So the Good Trouble blueprint begins with mass pressure in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. These Democratic-led swing states must immediately authorize independent third-party hand count audits of the 2024 ballots before the September 2026 deadline. So if you're somebody who lives in one of those states, this is something that you can demand of your state's attorneys, or maybe your representatives. You can start a movement in your state to try to make this happen. If you're in the chat and you're from one of these states, please let us know if you're already involved in something like this. Another thing they recommend is that blue states should abandon electronic systems and transition to paper tickets and hand counting all of their jousts, while they still retain that authority. So currently states, because of states' rights, have the authority over their own jousts. Federal government does not. Of course, someone's trying to change that, right? He is trying. Authoritarianism will never allow for states' rights. So that's something that they're going to want to change. So we got to do this before they change it. Okay, another thing that can happen, according to this article, is impeachment under Article 2, Section 4. If that doesn't work, try Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Another possibility is that if states are stalling investigations or audits, we can file bond claims against state legislators and attorneys general who refuse to protect the electorate. So also tell me in the chat if this is something you're involved in your state. This compels state level investigations into irregularities, also into Starboy and forensic audits in those states and beyond. Another thing we can do is invoke Section 3 of the 14th Amendment against all participants and legislators involved in both Jan 6 insurrection and or the 2024 joust irregularities. A stolen joust is a rebellion against the Constitution. All right, so this can be used to remove a lot of other people besides the head clown. And then what's going forward, where people are talking about, okay, once we have the midterms and special elections get swept, assuming like that. This is assuming they're fair, right? This is assuming they're not finagled. A big if, right? So if those things happen and we have a new Congress and they actually care about the Constitution, they can refuse to seat disqualified officials under the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. They can remove those who refuse to resign under Article 2, Section 4. And then Congress can pass a 2024 Election Correction Act, which voids the fraudulent certification, accepts corrected electors from audited states, and swears in Lotus Queen as legitimately chosen leader. Will it be easy? No. Has it been done before? Also no. Do we owe it to the future generations to try? Unequivocally, yes. I think that was a great, I think they did a great job of making some suggestions of what we can do. And so anyway, go read the article if you haven't already. And if someone has the link, they can put in the chat. Is that possible? Can we put links in the chat? I don't even know if that's possible. Like I'm going to try to put it in and see if I can. Okay. So sometimes they don't let you do that. Okay. So I did put it in the chat. Thanks to all my moderators, for being here. Yeah, I feel the same. I don't want to wait till then. I don't think we can wait till then. I think we have to act now. And so I think that those suggestions are great ones. Oh, here's some more good news. According to Lisa Bryant, Australia won't allow Starboy to activate Starlink in their country. I also heard that Uganda did the same thing. They said not in our country. And here's another question, super chat question from William Brown in Vermont. Do you think that the subsequent fallout between Head Clown and Starboy was all public theater? I do not. And I'll tell you why. First of all, my guides predicted the fallout. So when it happened, I saw it as just evidence of what I had already seen. Second, if it was just a public stunt, then Starboy would not have been the one to tell the public that Head Clown was in the files. So if you recall, he's the one that said that. Now, of course, there were people that suspected that. But when he got on Twitter and made that announcement, and people believed him, because keep in mind that Doge has read everything, right? They broke into, hacked into, into every government agency, even illegally, right? They're allegedly, because they were like breaking into buildings, they were taking people's computers. So when someone like that tells you what they think is in the files, we're more inclined to believe that, because this is someone who would have actually had access, right? Versus someone else saying, I suspect he's in the files. This is someone who had access to them. He had access to everything. He came out and said that. Very, very damaging thing for him to say. He would not have done that if he was not on bad terms with Head Clown. And so we're really lucky they had a fight, because it benefited all of us, because here we are, right? It's all anyone talks about now is these files, and in small part due to him speaking out and saying that really helped. That did not serve the Head Clown in any way. So no, I don't think it was a stunt. And yes, they are. I agree. These are 80s science fiction villains. Oh. All right. Okay, so I was looking in the comments to see, is anyone from any of those swing states, and can you report to us anything that's going on in your swing state that you're involved in or that you know about? Where was I trying to? Okay. Yeah, this is true. He got all these contracts. So obviously they're not, they're not fighting. There's some kind of reconciliation that happened, because there was this back and forth. If I'm going to take away your contracts, then he was like, well, I'm going to expose you to the public. And, they both played their cards. And now they seem to be in somewhat of a truce. But, what my guides said was that this infighting is going to continue with lots of different people. So we've seen a lot of infighting, and it keeps happening. We keep seeing more infighting as time goes on. So whether it's Starboy and Head Clown, or it's MTG and Head Clown, or it's Tucker and Head Clown, right? There's a lot of infighting, and that's going to continue. And that's what's, helping to lead to the downfall. That's funny. Yeah. So also we've got Romania getting rid of Starlink, after there was some shenanigans. Question. I have a question from Karen Edinger. Yeah, I'm not getting that it's all going to come out this year. We got 2 days left. So of course I was hoping. Lots of stuff has come out, and I think it kind of strains credulity that all of this stuff could come out and this circus could still be in power, right? I don't think any of us, really logically thought that was possible. And so I think for some of us who are psychic mediums, and we saw what was going to happen, like I was shown that these files were going to be released, and then the 19th came and they decided not to release most of them. And my guide said to me recently, when I said, I thought this was going to be resolved soon, they said, well, if the files had been released on the 19th, then it would have been over, because it's so incriminating. And so they have said that they're going to come out in different ways from different sources, that there's all these sources of the files, that yes, Blondie's going to keep hiding them and trying to obstruct, but that there are other people who have access to them, whistleblowers, other countries, etc. And so that's what I'm counting on, but I don't have a timeline. I don't have an exact timeline right now. Okay, here's another question. Super chat. Thank you for the $10 donation, Kathleen O'Malley. It was Starboy that did not renew the Adobe Acrobat Pro government contract that ultimately enabled the copy and paste feature of the EPI files. Sweet justice, right? So people were able to unredact certain files because they didn't use Adobe. Yeah, how does an old FBI building lose 1 million files? They're not lost. They're not lost. Nothing is lost. Why would they announce 1 million more documents? I don't know. I don't know why they're pretending that there are new. But this is kind of consistent, right? That they keep saying, we're very transparent. We've released so many. They've said this multiple times in the past, that they've released so much. It's never been true, but that is a part of their propaganda of pretending that they're releasing things that they aren't releasing. Now, another thing that I think is happening is this kind of muddying the water strategy that lawyers engage in, where you ask them, say, I need to see this text message that you sent on January 5th at 2 p.m. It's important evidence. And then your lawyer sends them 5 million text messages from the last 5 years. And then they have to search through the 5 million text messages to find the one text message that's incriminating. And so I do think that might be at play too. Because that's kind of been part of their MO too, is like putting out things that are irrelevant, putting out things that are not actually what we're looking for. Just a lot of distraction, a lot of look over here, right? That's why they're starting 2 wars. Oh, here's a rumor I haven't heard. What's this rumor based on? Is this a recent raid? I think we would have heard about this. I mean, I didn't see the news today because I was working. But does anyone have any more information on that? Yeah, they don't want the financial info out. Yeah, so they are trying to bury certain things. The answer to this question is yes. I was told this. I did talk about this a long time ago, that he is a starseed, but not a good one. I'm a starseed. So there are starseeds who are related to other beings in other galaxies. And that actually is why he's been able to do some of the things he's been able to do. He's not a genius, but he has access to information from other sources. Okay. Okay, I'm just looking for any more questions I missed, any more comments that, thank you for that $1.99 donation, Freelam. I appreciate it. Oh, we got someone from Vashon Island. I've been there in Washington. Yeah, they really don't want the videos out. Exactly. So here's the thing about the files. They don't just include documents, emails, texts, like we've seen so far, financial records. They also include videos. And so I read Virginia Giuffre's book. And if you read the book, what she says in there, she was living there with Epi and Giuffre. I mean, not Giuffre, Maxwell, for a couple of years, traveled the world with them. So she became intimately aware of the whole operation. And one of the things, if you don't know who she is, she was one of the most outspoken survivors. She was the first one to file lawsuits. She was really instrumental in getting the story out early on. And she is deceased. The official story is that it was a self-unaliving, but there are questions. What she said in her book was that Epi showed her a control room full of monitors, and because he had a camera in every single room in that house, and he would invite Johns over and say, "Oh, come to my house. You can use this bedroom and do what you want with this girl." And then he would videotape them, and then he would use the videotapes for blackmail and extortion purposes. And he actually showed her this room. And so there's a lot of videos. And that's pretty damning evidence, right? They got a video of you engaging in acts with somebody underage or somebody who was there non-consensually, right? Okay. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Jilly1362. And yeah, it is triggering. Someone said this stuff is triggering. It is. So, I try not to talk too much about the really triggering stuff. Like I read that whole book and I told people, if you're a survivor, don't read this book. If you are a man, please read this book. If you are a man who is not a survivor, please read this book. So what happens to these girls. But if you're a survivor, don't. It's too triggering. Okay. Oh, we didn't talk about this. We've really been focusing on this article that came out by This Will Hold. And now we're just starting to talk about other issues more. But one thing we did talk about is that there are a lot of defectors. There are a lot of people, a lot of infighting in the tent. And so MTG was a really big example of that. And if you don't know, she was like his like number one spokesperson. He was her number one best bulldog promoter, best friend, loyalist, right? And so it's a really big deal that she turned against him over these files. Some people say that she's probably a survivor and that this was a line for her. She didn't think he was in them, but once she got wind of the fact that he was, allegedly, she said, that's it. I can't support this. So according to this person, Bleeding Green Betty, MTG said that Trump, told her he doesn't want files released because, quote, all my friends will be hurt. And I don't know the source of this, so maybe someone can put the source in here. But yeah, I have heard different versions of this. I have seen some news reports where he has said things like, oh, a lot of innocent people are going to be hurt by the release. And he wasn't talking about the survivors. He was talking about powerful men being hurt. He's made that statement or statements along those lines a couple of times now. So this comment is consistent with other things I've seen. And this is probably why she decided she could no longer support him. This is a line in the sand for some people. Yeah, so this is another story. This is another rumor that people are saying, oh, that, MTG was, I think you mean MTG, that MTG was just mad. This was, a story they were putting out because Head Clown said he wasn't going to support her Senate run. I don't believe that. I do think that, because I did see reports by people, I've seen some reports online of people who said that there was a committee that actually has seen the files and they know what's in them. And so I believe that's what happened. I believe she found out what was actually in them and what his connection was to them. That's my position. Yeah, this is true about Virginia. She did say she was not wanting to unalive herself. However, if you read the book, the co-author, it was written along with a co-author, and the co-author writes a preface. And what she said in her preface was that Virginia had attempted self-unaliving on 2 other occasions shortly before the actual unaliving. And so that does suggest that she could have, right? We don't know for sure, but if she'd already tried it twice shortly before she passed, that does, the co-author did not question it at all. The co-author was like, yeah, she was suicidal. This was clear. She had tried twice and failed twice. And the 3rd time she succeeded. So that was what the co-author said. Okay. Thank you. I got every once in a while, I got to put up one of these sweet ones. I love everyone here too. I love this community. I love all the people that show up and share what they know. I love the comments I get, especially when people tell me about things I don't know or they correct something I said. I love it when people share their personal experiences, like what it's like in their state. Or what they're doing, like what you're involved in. I love to hear about that because it gives me a sense of the resistance in our community and how powerful we are. Yeah, also, this is also the case. Debbie Holansky is correct. She was talking to survivors. That changes you, right? The thing is, a lot of these survivors, they know. They know the names of the people who did the things they did, right? And so they could have easily told her, yeah, he was one of them. There's no way that, at least some of them didn't tell her that. What my guide said about it was that this was not a case of a network created by Epi, that Head Clown was some peripheral John involved in it. That's not what happened. Instead, that they were partners and that they were both orchestrators of the traffic. And now we do have a new lawsuit coming out in Palm Beach County, which alleges that very thing. The very thing that my guide said is now being alleged by a survivor in Palm County. Now, we don't know if it's true yet because, the case hasn't gone to trial, but it is going to trial. And that's what this person alleged, was that Head Clown was running a network of bad traffic that was, I think she said it was like identical to the Epi network. That's just one person, but it does support what my guide said. Okay. Thank you. I haven't been telling as many, straight stories lately. Because my guides keep having me switch things up. They had me start doing the comedy with not the news. But I am working on a new series of stories about the future. Okay, here we go. Here's our source from Plumtree. Apparently, MTG told a New York Times reporter that he yelled at her that his friends would be hurt. I do remember this now. New York Times has come out with quite a few interesting articles with a lot of interesting quotes and facts. Okay. All right. So just looking to see if I missed any questions that anybody wanted to ask me. We're probably going to close this out soon since it's almost 2 hours. I always feel like when we're on here for a long time that I'm like, are people really going to want to listen to me talk for this long? And then I always feel like, oh, we should probably end this soon. I always forget to do like the promotional stuff. So let me just stop and say, I do have books that I write. I'm an author. And so here are two of the books that I've written recently. This book, Sovereign Wisdom, is a philosophy book, Native American philosophy book that came out last year. You can get it online, various places, Barnes & Noble, etc. And this is my book for healers and psychics called The Ethical Psychic that came out the year before. You can also get it everywhere. Whatever bookstore is in your town, they'll order it. Yeah, I'm also glad that the artists are canceling at the Kennedy Center. This is an act of resistance, and it sounds, it's anything we see that's an act of resistance I just fills me with hope, and it reminds us of how powerful we are. Listen to this person, Joseph. 3 hours sounds great. I love it. I love it. We have over 600 people here. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for your comments, your likes, your subscribes. Thank you to all the people who are members. Thank you to my Patreon subscribers. Thank you to the people who sent me coffee. Oh yeah, I wanted to thank those people. Let me go look real quick and see if anyone donated recently that I can thank. So let's see, 26 minutes ago, Juliet Doris Williams, thank you for your cup of coffee donation. Susan from Oregon, thank you for your cup of coffee. And Karen Edinger, thank you for your cup of coffee. I appreciate you. Okay, how do I get back? Okay, there we are. How do we get back to StreamYard? Okay, so somebody's giving us some more information about this rumor that Head Clown had something raided in New York. So someone said it was a company in New York. Does anyone have any more information? Because I haven't heard that, but I haven't seen the news today because I was busy working. And Okay, here's another question, a super chat. Thank you, Freelum, for the $9.99 donation. Thank you. What is your guys' advice for us to keep our sanity? Oh, I can answer that. I used to talk about that a lot, I think. And now I just talk about it occasionally. But part of my motivation for doing this live tonight was specifically to answer that question by talking about the suggestions that the This Will Hold article gave us for what can we do. So that's why I gave all those suggestions. Like, you can get involved in those ways. You can reach out to your and so here's the thing. Action is what keeps us sane. Whenever you're dealing with oppression, injustice, chaos, madness, the apocalypse, that's what we're dealing with. It can make us feel helpless. It can make us feel hopeless. It can make us feel weak, like we don't have a say. And so the way we counteract that is by doing something, by taking some action, because action always makes us feel empowered. And so there's a lot of different ways to act. And sometimes I think people get caught up thinking there's only a certain kind of action you can involve yourself in. But there are just so many ways. And so, like, sending a letter to your Congress member and sending this article to them and saying, hey, why aren't you speaking out about the finagling in November? You need to speak out about this. You could organize a group in your town, in your neighborhood, of people just to get together and have coffee and talk about this. And talk about what can we do about this. You can, they had a list of, I've already forgotten the list of suggestions they made. Let's go over the suggestions from the article. So they said you can email your congressional member. You can also email your Secretary of State about the Joust in your particular state. You can share that article with other people who you think might do something with it. You can share it with journalists. You can share it with political leaders. You can start demanding that we move away from electronic to paper counting systems. There are organizations already working on that, so you could find out who they are and start working with them. You can work on a movement to impeach. You can just start speaking out in some way. Maybe it's just to your family. Maybe it's to your neighbors. Maybe it's at the PTA meeting. Maybe it's at work. Maybe you can start writing. Maybe you could become a amateur journalist. So many people are doing it now. Maybe you can get a social media account and start sharing your views. That's going to help you feel sane. So action, any kind of action. I think being involved in organizations is really helpful. I've been involved with Indivisible. I've been involved with a feminist organization. I've been involved with some food banks. Helping other people keeps us sane because it, again, makes us feel like we have power, we have sovereignty over our lives, we can do something. Helping, I think, serving others in some way. I find that it's very helpful for me. Like, whenever I get really upset about what's going on, if I start, doing a post or getting involved with a protest or something, I immediately feel better because I feel like, okay, I did something. I'm not helpless, and that keeps me sane. Another thing that we can do is just find community, right? Create community. It doesn't have to be a big community. It can just be like one of the things my guide said, many months ago was that everyone should have a group of 4. Like, find 3 neighbors that you can befriend, or find 3 people at your job, or 3 people from your from some organization you're associated with, 3 friends that you have that live in different places that you just once a week, you get on a Zoom call or you get on a phone call and you just spend time together. Start a knitting group, start a art group. I've been doing a lot of arts and crafts. I've been looking for arts and crafts events to go to. And then you can also just sponsor your own. Like, I sometimes just invite people over to my house to do collage, just get a bunch of old magazines and make vision boards. I used to have for the first part of the apocalypse, for like the first 6 months, I used to have women that I invited over to my porch every Friday, and we would just talk about what was going on and how we were feeling about the political situation. I found that really helpful. Meditation is really, really helpful. Being in nature, I find, is very helpful. Being around trees or grass or the beach or any part of nature. You don't have to be living next to, the wilderness. Sometimes it's just finding a little tiny park, a little tiny piece of land, and just sitting there. It's very restorative, to be in nature, especially if you're dealing with a lot of stress. Writing and making art, I think, really help with our sanity. So any kind of art that you're attracted to, any kind of writing, whether it's journaling or journalism or working on a book. You could write a book about what it's like to go through this. In the future, they're going to want to read those books. They're going to want to know what it was like for us to go through this. Those are all the things I can think of, how to keep yourself sane. Hope that was helpful. And I think we should end on that note, because, staying sane is super important. Staying sane, taking care of ourselves. Breath work is important. Oh, we got some other people chiming in. Thank you. Dance. Yes. Dancing and singing is very healing. Anything that brings joy and laughter. Getting out into nature, ice skating, snowshoeing, snowboarding, sledding for those in the snowy realms. I miss the snow. Oh, yes. I also like looking for rocks, holding crystals. Very healing. I'm just trying to see if anyone else has any suggestions. Oh, here's a suggestion someone has. Print things out, like the contest information, and leave it out for people. Yeah, so like you could take that article or this other one, this Common Coalition report. Let me just pull that up again real quick. Right? You could, where is it? I have so many things open. Here we go. Right? Here's this Common Coalition report. In fact, I'm going to put it in the chat. You could share this with people. Another thing that we were doing, one of the things that we were doing is you could make stickers and put them like in bathrooms, encouraging stickers or stickers that have information to kind of educate people. You could put it in the stalls, right? Or other public places. If you want to share information, or just put flyers out or pamphlets. Sharing information is very empowering for you as the person sharing it and for the people receiving it. Because we do have a lack of media now, right? We have a lack of access to a free press. And so people have to really look for this information. You have to go to Substack. You have to be on certain social media platforms. You have to follow certain people. You really got to work these days to get information. And some people just don't know how to do that, or aren't going to do it, or they're too busy, or they're too overwhelmed. And so if you can help other people get access to information that you have, that can be really, really helpful for them, but it can also be very empowering for you. So those are all the suggestions I got. Oh, someone's beating wampum. Nice. DJ Vest. That's funny. Wampum. I used to do beadwork, and beadwork is so relaxing. I need to get back to it. Thank you for the super sticker, J Pal. Laughter is important. Laughter is important. Yes, I agree. I also do this. Watch cute dog and kitty videos on YouTube. That brings joy and laughter. It does. I like to watch English Bulldog videos and capybara videos, and also wildlife rescue videos, because I love seeing wildlife rescued from the stupid stuff that we do. Okay, here's some more information about that raid. Young kid whose apartment got raided at 6 a.m. in New York was friends with D Jr. and Trio. Okay, so that's somebody was bringing this up earlier, and I was asking if we had more information about what's this raid related to the felon. Yeah, art is therapy. Oh, look at this suggestion. Painting your nails can become color therapy as well as self-care. Sounds silly, but it really helped me through the last several months. There are so many ways. Yeah, meditation is very helpful. Moving meditation too. You can meditate while you're walking in the woods. Caring for animals. Oh, someone's talking about watching Looney Tunes. Yeah, humor is really important. So find some way to laugh. It's very healing. And this person writes poetry. I'm also a poet. Poetry is very healing as well. I also go to open mics, poetry open mics, and just listen to other people share their poetry. Or also you can go to a comedy open mic or a singing open mic. Just being around art can be really helpful. Knitting and crochet, singing and dancing. All right, thanks for all these great suggestions, people. We're still answering the question, what can we do? What can we do to stay sane during the apocalypse? Play with children. That's another good idea. Play with children. I just got to see, so I have a new grand god baby who's 6 months old. Oh my God, so cute. So I got to see her a couple times over the last month. So joyful to see her. You know, babies are so joyful, you know. And journaling. That's going to be our last suggestion. Journaling is also helpful. Always helpful. Okay. So thank you everybody for coming. It's been 2 hours, so I am going to finally call it quits. Thank you everybody for showing up, for participating, for contributing your ideas and your comments, and just being a part of this community. It's really awesome. I think this is another example of what keeps us sane, is having community, even if it's online community. This online community is still a community, and it does really help keep us sane to be able to connect with one another on a regular basis and just, you know, share ideas and share hope. So thank you all for being here. And I don't know when I'm going live again. I did live 2 days in a row because I was so excited about this article. So, you know, we'll see what happens if something big happens and I feel like, oh, we got to do a live again. We will. But otherwise, I've been doing lives on Thursday nights. And so I'm going to try to stick to that schedule to at least do one every Thursday. But I might start doing more than that because people seem interested and I really enjoy them. So everyone have a good night, and I will see you again soon. Be well.